Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove and I'm back with this week's No Filter Q&A. This is the episode where I answer all questions related to diet, training, and supplementation that I've received over the last 7 days from our in-house clients, online clients, as well as a few of our online followers. Remember, if you have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements you are currently taking, not taking, considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. All right, let's get started with this week's No Filter Q&A with question number 1. Nick, how can I get rid of my belly fat? Probably the most common question I receive from men all the time. Okay. I receive this question from men more than I receive it from women. The question I usually receive from women is, how do I get rid of the fat in my thighs and my butt? The guys, it's always in the belly. Okay. Belly, lower back, love handles. Okay. Very common area for men. Why is it a common area for men? Well, that for guys, we tend to carry a lot of our fat here because we have a lot of fat cells in our midsection, our abdominal region. Okay. Even skinny guys, you notice a lot of skinny guys, as they get older and they're not as active, they tend to put a lot of weight on in their midsection. Okay. So it has to do with where the fat cells are distributed. Okay. So because you have fat cells distributed, more fat cells distributed throughout the abdominal region, you're going to get more accumulation of fat, especially visceral fat in that area, which is a very dangerous fat. So it's not a healthy fat. It's not a good fat. It can cause a lot of problems, health problems down the road. Okay. So how do you get rid of it? Well, the simple answer is a combination of diet, training, and supplementing properly, right? Living a clean, healthy lifestyle. But that's not the sexy answer. People don't want to hear that answer. They want the quick fix. They want to know, okay, what fat burner should I take? I mean, the amount of questions I get on Ozempic on a weekly basis is crazy. Okay. So they want to know the quick fix. What diet should I go on to lose 20 pounds in 20 days? And I always tell people, look, if you take it off fast, you're going to put it back on fast. So if you take it off in a slow and an efficient manner, you're going to be able to keep it off. Now, how do you do that? Well, you create good habits. Instead of changing your diet from 0 to 100 overnight, you make little changes, small changes. Instead of going to the gym, not going to the gym at all, then going to the gym 7 days a week, you go to the gym twice a week, and you build it up to 3 times a week, 4 times a week, 5 times a week. Over time, you create good habits. Okay. This is the answer that people don't want to hear, though. People always want quick fixes, especially in this day and age. People want things in real time, and the body doesn't work like that. Okay. So you can't allow yourself to get distracted by fat burners like Ozempic or these fad diets that people go on, like the carnivore diet or ketosis diets, or if it's your macros diet or intermittent fasting, all these fad diets. You have to follow a plan that works specifically for you, that's realistic to follow, that will allow you to build and maintain a solid, lean physique. Okay. So with that being said, it's not one particular abdominal exercise. It's not one particular food. It's not one particular supplement that's going to get rid of that fat. It's a combination of all three. Okay. So if you want to get rid of fat in general, you're going to have to go into somewhat of a caloric reduction. Now, how much? Well, that's going to depend on your genetics. It's going to depend on your lifestyle. It's going to depend on your activity level, how often you're working out, if you live a sedentary lifestyle, if you have a job that you're very active, or if you have a job that you're more sedentary. All these things are factors you have to take into consideration when you're putting together a training program and a nutritional plan. Okay. Male versus female. Men typically have an easier time losing weight over women, but women do lose weight. You just have to be a little bit more patient with your physique and your genetics and your gender. Okay, that's it. So with all that being said, how do I get rid of belly fat? Okay, well, pretty straightforward. Like I said, you go to the gym, right? You train on a regular basis. You make sure you're in that gym for at least 30 to 45 minutes, busting your ass, lifting heavy weights, resting very little in between sets. Okay, all out intensity. Then you get the hell out of the gym. Okay, that's it. Then you get into the kitchen, your diet. You got to make sure you're eating clean foods, not half the time, not 75% of the time. You want to be eating clean at least 95% of the time if you truly want to get rid of that belly fat. You can't be having a cheat meal every day. It doesn't work like that. I've yet to meet anyone who has a cheat meal every day or 3 times a week that gets rid of belly fat. Once you get the goals that you want to achieve accomplished, then you can have like 3 or 4 cheat meals a week and maintain. But my recommendation is, if you need to get down that lower body fat percentage, you need to dial in your diet. Okay, so that's crucial. So you need to make sure that your training's intense. You need to make sure that your diet's dialed in. You need to make sure that your supplement protocol, and I don't mean Ozempic, I mean your supplement protocol as a whole with your vitamins and your nutrients, vitamin C, omega-3, calcium, vitamin E, vitamin B. Make sure you're getting all that in, collagen, all that good stuff, lean protein powders in. Everything counts, okay? It all adds up. And you do that day in, day out, not for a week, not for a month. Try doing it for 6 months on a consistent basis and come back to me and say, hey, I didn't see any results. Because I guarantee you, you will. The problem is that people don't stick with what their plan is. They get all motivated to go to the gym. They get all motivated to go on a new diet plan. They get all motivated to maybe work out with a new trainer. And then after 4 weeks of maybe not seeing any results, they get discouraged and they stop. And one thing I always tell, especially new clients, I always tell them, we need to set SMART goals. And I talked about this on a previous episode. SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely goals. You have to manage your expectations. So you can't go to the gym for someone who hasn't been to the gym ever in their life, or someone who hasn't been to the gym in, let's say, a few years, and just think you're going to get a six-pack in 6 weeks or 4 weeks. It doesn't work like that, okay? But I promise you that if you're consistent, day in, day out, you grind, you work as hard as you possibly can, you will get rid of that belly fat, okay? I always compare building a physique as like building a business. You can't build a business if you're only going to work 1 day a week. You're not going to build a profitable business. To build a business, you've got to be in there day in, day out, especially in the early phases. In the early years, you've got to be working 7 days a week. If you're not willing to work 7 days a week, you're not going to have a successful business. Once your business becomes profitable and once it starts running, then maybe you can take your foot off the gas a little and say, you know what, I'm going to give myself every Sunday off, or maybe I'm going to give myself the weekends off. But someone who wants to start a business is delusional if they think they're going to work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. It's not going to work like that. So same thing with your physique. You can't go in there thinking, now I'm going to work out 3 to 5 days a week, whatever it is. I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to clean up my diet for 30 days and I'm going to see results. No, it doesn't work like that. Day in, day out. Stay consistent and the results will come. Okay, so it's not one particular diet, one particular supplement protocol, or one training program that I can recommend you do. It's a combination of all three that you follow on a regular basis, day in, day out. Not for a week, not for a month. I always tell people, manage your expectations, set your goal to be 6 months to a year, okay? And then watch how your body changes and watch how your physique transforms. Because I guarantee you, you will see results if you follow that plan to a T. All right, next question. Nick, is it better to work out in the morning or at night? I've had this question a few times, and really the answer depends on you as an individual. Your body clock, your lifestyle, what works for you, okay? So if you're someone who works 9 to 5, well, you have got the luxury of either training early in the morning or after work, okay? So I have a lot of people, most of my clients are self-employed, so they can kind of train with me whenever they want, right? But I find what works for people is what works for your body clock. So if you're someone who likes to go to bed at, let's say, 10 o'clock at night, it's probably not a good idea to be training at 7 o'clock at night, because most people know when they work out, they're not necessarily tired, but they want to go to sleep. They have a lot of energy. So your best bet would be to work out earlier in the day, preferably in the morning. So if you're someone who goes to sleep at 10 o'clock at night, my recommendation would be to either train earlier in the morning, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., or in the mid-afternoon, 1 p.m., 2 p.m., okay? So then you at least have 4 or 5 hours before you go to sleep, okay? So it's not that one time is better than the other. It's really what works for your lifestyle and your body clock. For myself personally, I wake up at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 days a week. I know that I train better in the morning versus at night. There are times, though, that I have to train at night due to my schedule, and I notice that my workouts are not as good. Okay, I'm not as strong. I'm a little bit more tired. I probably have too much food in me, which works to my disadvantage. My body tends to work better on less food for a workout than more food. And that's actually true for a lot of people I work with. They work better with less food in their stomach than more. Some people work better with a few meals in their stomach, but everyone's different. So you have to think of which workout time slot gives me the best workout. Do I work out better in the morning? Do I work out better in the afternoon? Or do I work out better in the evening? What's my recovery like? And I always tell people, try all three. And then you figure out, okay, how did that workout go? Assess your workout, assess your performance. How was my recovery? Was I able to have a good sleep, or was I wired because I had caffeine before my workout and I couldn't sleep? So it comes down to what works best for you, because whatever time slot you work out at, as long as you're able to train with, again, the utmost amount of intensity, and you're able to recover afterwards, and you're still able to, have a post-workout meal, and then make sure that you can get back into the gym the next day or the day after that and still feel good, that's the time slot you want to train at. And when I've answered this question in the past, the one thing I always tell clients is that if you can, because I know it's not always possible, but if you can, try to keep your workout time slot consistent. So if you're someone who trains at 7 a.m. in the morning, my recommendation is to try to keep that time slot for all your workouts. Okay. If you're someone who trains at 7 o'clock at night, keep that time slot for all your workouts. And as I said, I know that's not always practical. I mean, there's times where I'll work out at 6 a.m. There's times I'll work out at 7 p.m. There's times I'll work out at 10 p.m. So you have to kind of go with your schedule sometimes. I get that. But for the most part, if you can, try your best to maintain a consistent schedule with your training, because you'll notice that if you're training at a consistent time slot and a consistent level, your sleep patterns will be more regulated, your recovery will be more regulated, you'll feel better, you'll train better, you'll perform better in the gym, and you'll get better results. Okay, so that's my recommendation. It's not that morning is better than night or night is better than morning. What works for you and your body clock. All right. Nick, if I'm going to drink, would it be better to drink beer or wine? When it comes to alcohol, I generally recommend people try to stick with things like tequila soda, gin and soda, vodka soda. The reason I recommend this is A, there's a hell of a lot less sugar, and B, there's a lot less calories. Okay. But if you're someone who doesn't enjoy hard liquor, or you can't handle hard liquor, and you're trying to decide between beer or wine, I would recommend taking the wine over the beer. Reason why: most people will tend to drink less wine. Well, not all people, but most people will drink less wine than beer. You see a lot of people, when they drink beer like water, especially after you've had that second or third beer. And if it's a hot day, I know people, I have friends that will easily down 20 cans of beer within 3-4 hours sitting easily. And you think of all the calories that go into that, it's tons. So, I mean, at least with wine, you're not just chugging it down. So from a caloric perspective, you're going to take in less calories. But if you're looking for the best option, again, my recommendation is to stick with something like a tequila soda, gin and soda, vodka soda, far less calories, far less sugar, much less sugar. And so you'll feel a little bit better too, especially if it's a good liquor, right? It's not some cheap liquor, but if you get good liquor, a little bit higher end brand, like some of the vodka, maybe Grey Goose, you'll feel better too, right? And you won't drink as much. Well, hopefully you won't drink as much. So that's my recommendation. But if you're going to choose between beer and wine, I would recommend wine personally. Some people might disagree with me on that, but I'm looking purely from a caloric perspective and thinking, okay, if you're going to be drinking empty calories, you might as well try to take in the least amount of calories as possible in that sitting, right? So that's why I recommend tequila, gin, or vodka mixed with club soda, or even like a diet soft drink like ginger ale or Diet Coke. That to me is optimal over beer or wine. But if you're going to choose between beer or wine, I'd take the wine. Right. Okay. Next question. Nick, you mentioned you stopped doing cardio in your last few years of competing. Do you do this with clients as well who have been competing for many years? Okay, good question. So the reason I stopped doing cardio towards the later end of my years of competing is because I found that I was able to get in shape much quicker without it. And that's probably because I was able to build more muscle mass. And don't forget too, I was competing in an amateur level. If I was competing at the IFBB pro stage, I'd probably be doing cardio to get more striations in the glutes, more striations in the hamstrings, and get my body fat to like that 2% level. But I was competing at a good 4 or 5% body fat, which, you know what, is respectable at an amateur level. I never placed at a top 5. I usually placed top 3. And yeah, towards I think it was the last 2 or 3 years, I never did any cardio to get in shape. And it is because I was able to build more muscle mass. Now, again, this does come down to the individual that I'm working with. Some guys and some women that I work with just have these crazy metabolisms, and I don't have to give them much, if any, cardio to get in shape. Other people, even people who I've been working with for 10 plus years for competitions, I still have to give them 45 to 90 minutes of cardio a day just to bring them into stage ready shape, right? So sometimes it just depends on the genetics. Another thing it depends on too is how someone is looking, how far out from a show. I have a lot of guys, well, not a lot of guys, but I have a few guys that I work with for shows, and they're big boys. They got a lot of muscle. They have more muscle than me. But a lot of times, and they'll admit to this, they get sloppy in the off season. They allow themselves to eat whatever they want. And so when they come to see me for a 16-week prep, they're technically out of shape. They're holding a lot of fat. So I do have, even though they have a lot of muscle, I have to start giving them cardio to get them ready because they're so far behind schedule to get them ready for a show that's 16 weeks out. And this is why I tell a lot of the people I work with is if you stay lean year round, you don't have to diet as hard. You don't have to do so much cardio because you're already within striking distance. And I really try to, push that message home to a lot of my competitors, and not only my competitors, but my clients who just want to get ready for weddings, for photo shoots, for beach vacations. And I say, look, if you stay in shape year round, it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be so stressful. You don't have to push yourself so hard. You don't have to diet so extreme. It'll be really easy. Okay. But, not everyone listens to me, and people want to go off and they want to eat whatever they want, and they want to take, a month or two off the gym. And hey, look, it's your life. You can do what you want, but just keep in mind when it's time to get ready for your competition, photo shoot, vacation, you're going to have to work twice as hard as the person who was watching what they ate and staying consistent with their training year round. Okay. So to answer that question, again, it really depends on the individual. There are some clients I work with who I don't really need to give any cardio to. There's probably only about like 2 or 3 of those people though. But for the most part, most of the people I work with, I have to give them some form of cardio to get them ready for the event that they're training for. Okay. Again, for me personally, one of the reasons, well, I think it's the only reason that I was able to not have to do cardio is because I was able to build so much muscle. And then in the off season, I never really came off my diet. I always stayed on my diet. I just ate more food, but it was the exact same diet as I would get ready for a show. Instead of eating like 6 ounces of chicken for a show, I'd eat 9 ounces of chicken in the off season. Instead of eating 1 cup of brown rice, I'd eat 1.5 cups of brown rice in the off season. So I would just consume a little bit more macronutrients, a little bit more calories, but the food stayed the same. I wasn't having burger and fries. I wasn't having pizza, right? I wasn't having ice cream. I wasn't doing any of that. So when it came time to get ready for a show, I was pretty much ready. I just had to maybe drop my calories a little bit, and that was it. But yeah, for the most part, most people do have to do a little bit of cardio. Okay. So that will depend on your genetics, how long you've been training for. Because again, the more muscle you have, obviously, yeah, you're not going to have to do as much cardio, especially if you're already in shape. Because as I've said time and time again, the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn in a rested state. Okay. So if you want to keep body fat percentage low year round, get in the gym, make sure you're training with weights on a regular basis. I just mentioned this on last week's episode as to why people shouldn't be relying on cardio to burn fat. If you haven't seen that, check it out. I posted it last week. And it's a controversial topic for a lot of people because a lot of people think, oh no, you got to do cardio to burn fat. But I don't follow generic formulas. I don't believe in that. And I think if I can work smarter rather than harder, I'm going to take that approach. I take that approach in business. I take that approach in life. So why wouldn't I take that same approach to my training and my diet? I don't want to work hard. I want to work smart. So I don't want to work 12 hours to get the same results that I can get in 2 hours. That to me is just stupid. Anyway, so hopefully that answers the question. All right. Next question. Okay. Nick, how wide of a grip should I use when I'm doing lat pull downs and bent over barbell rows? You know what? That's a really good question because if one thing I see when people are doing first of all, when I see people doing bent over barbell rows, 9 times out of 10, I see people doing them incorrectly. Most people, when they're doing bent over barbell rows, they're not bending over enough. It's almost like they're working their traps still because they're almost standing up. When you do a bent over barbell row, in my opinion, you should be, it doesn't have to be parallel to the floor, but it should be on what we call a ski slope angle. So you should be at about, I recommend usually about 140-degree angle. Okay, that's going to allow you to engage in your upper lats. Now, when you talk about how wide you should go on a barbell row and a lat row, my recommendation on a barbell row is slightly wider than shoulder width apart. Because don't forget, you're trying to work your lower lats on a barbell row. Regardless if you're working with a pronated grip or supinated grip, you're working your upper lats, your lower lats, really depends on which grip you're using. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you're engaging those lats. So in order to do that, you have to use a grip that's slightly wider than shoulder width. If you're using a shoulder width apart grip, you're going to get your lats to a degree, but you're not going to get the best contraction because you're going to be using a lot of your rhomboids and your scapula to pull that weight back. Okay. So my recommendation, whether you're doing a supinated row or a pronated row or a supinated pull down or a pronated pull down, is always go slightly wider than shoulder width apart. Same thing for your pull down, slightly wider than shoulder width apart. you're always trying to develop like that V taper, right? Man or a woman, when we're in the gym, that's what the physique that we look to attain, right? If you're trying to look like a bodybuilder or even like a physique competitor, that V taper, I don't think anyone's going to say, ooh, that looks gross. Nice little waist, lats that stick out. It looks good, right? On both men and women. So that's why I recommend using a wider, slightly wider than shoulder width apart grip. Okay. That to me is optimal. Now, there are times where you'll go for a little bit more close grip. Let's say a close grip pull down, right? Where your elbows are tucked in, or a seated row where your elbows are tucked in. But you have to remember, you're working your inner lats there. So that would make more sense to keep the arms close to the body, okay? But if you're trying to work the width of the back, well, guess what? You got to use a wide grip, right? But not too wide, because I have seen some people go too wide. And the problem is when you go too wide, either on a row or a pull down, you're going to use a lot of your bicep. Okay. And you're going to use like a lot of, again, the traps because the weight's further away from your body. So you're going to be using synergist muscle groups. So in order to almost create, because they're not isolation exercises, but almost to isolate the lats, you're going to go slightly wider and shoulder width apart. In my opinion, that's the best way to perform those exercises. There might be a few trainers out there that disagree with me on that, but I've seen some great results doing that grip with people in the past, working with clients with a slightly wider and shoulder width apart grip, and I've done it with myself. So that's what I feel works best. All right. Okay, next question. Nick, how can I increase my flexibility in my shoulders and traps? I can't even hold the bar on my back when I try and squat. Will stretching every day fix this? And if so, what kind of stretching should I be doing? Okay, so mobility and flexibility issues in the rhomboids and the scapula and the traps are very common, especially with men. You see a lot of men that have rounded shoulders, right? It's actually a postural misalignment called kyphosis lordosis. I'm not making this up. It is a postural misalignment. It's almost like the hunchback, right? So we see a lot of guys like this, especially older guys as guys get older. And, the reason for this is because people get lazy when they're sitting, they just want to have bad posture, round forward. Another thing is people don't really train their back, right? So when you train your back and your rhomboids, you're actually able to open up more and have better postural alignment. Okay. Now, when you're dealing with tightness in those areas, what can you do? Well, my recommendation, yeah, stretching will help, but stretching will only go so far. And better option would be to go to, here in Vancouver, British Columbia, we have these stretching clinics. What we do with our clients in the gym, we do what we call PNF stretches, which are perpetual neuromuscular function stretching, which is like partner assisted stretching. So for example, on a shoulder stretch, I might have someone put their hands behind their head. And what I'll do is I'll give them a little bit of pressure on their elbow so I can actually take them into a further range of motion than they could do on their own. Okay, so partner stretching is really effective. So if you have a friend or family member that can help you with that, and you can go through some partner stretches with them, super beneficial. My recommendation, though, is to do those first few sessions with a professional because you don't want to injure yourself. So PNF stretching works really well, perpetual neuromuscular function stretching, preferably done with a partner because a partner can take you into range of motions that you cannot do on your own. Another thing I'd recommend is take up a yoga class at least once or twice a week. I've done that myself, and I've noticed a huge difference in not just my posture, but my mobility and flexibility just by doing yoga once a week. Okay. Because again, that 45-minute, actually, it's a 60-minute session, but 60 minutes of yoga, it just takes your body through all these planes of motion that we actually do in the gym, but there's static contractions, there's dynamic contractions, there's all these movements, and it really helps us open you up. Okay. So I think yoga is a great way to increase mobility and flexibility. I know a lot of people swear by Pilates. Now, I'm not as well versed in Pilates, so I can't really recommend that. However, I have had clients that have done Pilates and continue to do Pilates, and I do notice a better range of motion when they do squats, lunges, hip thrusts, bench press, and that's most likely because of all the work they do in Pilates, okay? Weight training as well will help you stay more mobile and flexible. So you want to make sure you're doing your compound movements like the bench press, like the barbell squats, even deadlifts to a degree, although most people know I recommend straight leg deadlifts versus the conventional deadlift. Because if you're training with free weights and you're using good range of motion, that's going to allow you to stay flexible and mobile as well, right? Another thing you can do, acupuncture. Acupuncture is great, okay? Especially if you're dealing with something like, shoulder impingement. And if you find that the acupuncture isn't enough, you can go into IMS. IMS is really good. I have a lot of clients that go to IMS, and I'm a firm believer in using IMS. And IMS is similar to acupuncture. It's a little bit more, I would say, somewhat painful for some people. Okay. But for the most part, it's really beneficial because it gets right into those muscle bellies. Okay. So that's something else you could look into, IMS. And then, finally, it's just a combination of making sure you're staying on top of your flexibility and mobility, just like you would with your workouts. It's just as important. So you should be treating your mobility, your flexibility, just like you would a training session. Like myself personally in the gym, I always spend the last 5-10 minutes of my workout doing some dynamic stretches, some static stretches. I find I'm usually more flexible at the end of my workout versus the beginning. So I think that's allowed me to continue to train in the gym injury-free because I am quite flexible and I am quite mobile. So that's my recommendation. A combination of all those things really help. But yeah, I'd be looking for some stretching clinics in your area because I know here in Vancouver, we do have a few. We offer it as well. We have stretching sessions that we do with clients all the time. So it's something you're interested in and you live in the Vancouver area, feel free to reach out to me at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me on my Instagram, @fitcosgrove_, and I'll set you up with a few stretching sessions with either myself or one of our trainers. All right, next question. Okay. Nick, in one video, you said you like training 48 to 50 sets in a workout, but you also said it's best to keep the workouts to 45, 60 minutes. Did I mishear you, or is that what you aim for when training naturals? If so, what does that look like, and how do you achieve that many sets in that time frame? Really good question. I did say that, and I still stand by that. So as most people know, if you've worked with me either on the floor or online, or you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, I'm a firm believer in high volume training, okay? But I'm also a firm believer in taking minimal rest periods, okay? And because I train clients out of a private training facility, we have the luxury of circuit training, okay? Now, circuit training is huge. In my opinion, circuit training is excellent because not only are you having a great resistance workout, you're also working your cardiovascular system. So it's like a 2-in-1. Okay, so for those people that don't know what circuit training is, let's take, for example, let's say it's a chest and back workout. Okay, so you go from an incline barbell chest press and you go immediately to a lat pull down, then you go maybe to a flat dumbbell bench press, then you go immediately to a seated cable row. You've just knocked out 4 sets, all back to back with no rest in between. Then what I usually do in my private training facility with my clients is I'll give them anywhere from 60 seconds to maybe 90 seconds rest if they need it. Okay, beginners usually need that. But as someone becomes more conditioned and their body adapts to the training, they need less and less time to rest in between those sets. So I have some people that will knock out 4 sets in a row. They'll take a 30-second rest period and they're ready to go again. Okay. Now, in order to achieve this, you can't go ridiculously heavy. You can't be training. You're going to train intensely, but you can't be training at like 1 rep maxes. No, you're going to pick a weight that you can do 12 to 15 reps with on round 1. You're going to pick a weight that you can do 10 to 12 reps for rounds 2, 3, and 4. And then you're going to move on. So how I get 70 sets or 60 sets in a 60-minute workout of clients is I don't do that from day one with a beginner. That's something we build up to. Let's take yesterday, for example, Friday morning in the gym. I had 2 of my guys, we were doing an arm workout. One of my guys is 63. The other one is 57 years old. These 2 guys, I swear on my mother's life, they knocked out 72 sets in 60 minutes. Okay. That is not unheard of for clients that I work with in-house. These guys have been working with me for 16 years though. Okay. So they've conditioned their bodies to do this. Now it's an arm workout. Arms are not that crazy intense to train, but to get 72 sets in 60 minutes is pretty damn impressive. Again, circuit training is what we utilize. Now, if you're in a commercial gym, unfortunately, it's very difficult to circuit train, but you can still train high volume with minimal rest periods. Okay, so my recommendation in order to achieve this, take your weights down a little bit, not crazy, just a little bit, because you're still going to get great results if your muscles are struggling to lift that weight or to pull that weight or to squat that weight. I always tell clients, if it's a struggle to squat 10 pounds, guess what? Your legs are going to respond. Your muscles don't have eyes. They don't know how much you're lifting. So as long as you're challenging the body, it's going to respond. So we don't want to get caught up on these minute details as how much weight did I bench press last week, or what's my 1 rep max, or all this garbage. Okay, it's garbage. The body needs, for the body to respond, it needs to be challenged. So if you're moving and you're not resting very long in between sets, you're not playing on your phone, you're going to get great results. You're going to get a great workout. So that's how I perform 70 sets with a client in 60 minutes. And like I said, not every client's going to perform 70 sets, but for myself personally, yes, there are workouts, especially when I do arm workouts, I perform 60 or 70 sets in 60 minutes because I just keep going all out. Now, if I'm training a muscle group like legs, no, I'm not going to get 70 sets in 60 minutes. Legs are a bigger muscle group. You might need, instead of 30 seconds, you might need 60 seconds to respond or to rest for you to respond for your next set. And that's fine. So in a leg workout, I usually aim with my clients anywhere from 42 to 52 sets in 60 minutes. And yes, it can be done. Okay. I have hundreds of people I've worked with over the years that can attest to this. It's just by using your time more efficiently in the gym. And again, if you're working in a private training facility or you have a home gym that you can use, it's very easy to do this. You just have to build up a tolerance to it. You have to condition yourself for it. If you're in a commercial gym, I understand it's a little bit more challenging to do it. But again, many times when I've gone to commercial gyms and I'm doing a basic straight set format where I'm doing the same exercise for 4 to 5 sets, I'll rest no more than 30, 45 seconds max. I'll never rest more than a minute, ever. Okay, so if I need to rest more than a minute, chances are the weight's too heavy. Okay, so I need to lower the weight so I can still perform and burn out my muscles. Okay, and you know what? The great thing is when you don't go super heavy in the gym, you're going to avoid injury. Okay, or you're going to create a better chance of avoiding injury because you're not lifting ridiculously heavy weights. I've talked about how I've squatted 315 for the past 15 plus years, and I don't feel I need to go up. Could I go up? Sure. But I don't feel I need to. My legs have responded to 315 as the max weight. I feel like I get my heart rate up to a good level. I feel winded after. I feel my legs for days. So that's a good weight for me. So you got to remember, it's not about how much weight you lift. It's about how intense you can make your workouts. And that's how you're going to create results. And that's how you're going to utilize your time more efficiently in the gym. So that's how I do such high volume training in such a minimal time frame with clients. All right, last question. Nick, is it true that people begin to lose muscle after the age of 30? For the average sedentary person, absolutely it's true. For someone who lifts weights on a regular basis and takes care of their cardiovascular health, goes for walks, maybe goes for the occasional run, bike ride, absolutely not. No, I don't believe that for a second. These generic formulas that are these generic templates, I should say, that are put out there for the masses, they're true to a degree. I mean, you take the BMI, the body mass index, that's based on, it'll tell someone if you're overweight based on your weight and based on your height. But according to the BMI, I'm morbidly obese. I'm 210 pounds and I'm 5'9". I'm morbidly obese. I don't think I'm morbidly obese. I've talked about this in the past. But because I train with weights 6, sometimes 7 days a week, I have muscle mass. So the BMI doesn't take into consideration muscle mass. But for someone who is sedentary and doesn't go to the gym, yeah, if they're 5'9" and they're 210, there's a good chance that they probably are overweight. Very good chance, right? So the BMI is an accurate tool to use for the average sedentary person. So do people lose weight after 30? I think it's after 40, but maybe it is after 30 now. I don't know. But regardless, if they're sedentary, absolutely, I agree with that. Yeah, they're probably losing weight even earlier or losing muscle even earlier because they're not challenging their muscles, right? And that's when people start to develop potential problems down the road: arthritis, tendonitis, bursitis, right? They start to develop patellofemoral syndrome, plantar fasciitis, all these issues that can actually be, I'm not saying that they can be prevented by weight training, but again, your odds go up of preventing things like this if your muscles are strong. Your joints don't have to do as much work. Your tendons don't have to do as much work. Again, I'm not saying that they can prevent arthritis as a whole, but it's been shown that lifting weights on a regular basis can help prevent osteoarthritis or delay the onset of osteoarthritis from happening, right? So we know this. So when I hear these things about these generic rules that, the BMI, you need to be BMI here, your height needs to be this, your weight needs to be this, and you're losing muscle after the age of 30. There's a whole bunch of crap. Blood work. I remember I talked about this a few months ago when I went for my blood work and my testosterone levels were at a 48, and they're here in Canada, the levels are supposed to be at a 28, and my doctor was all worried. I said, I'm not on anything. I said, I train on a regular basis. I eat healthy. I work out regularly. Of course, my testosterone is going to be high. It's not dangerously high, but it is high. I'm not going to compare my testosterone to the average guy who doesn't do anything. Why would I want my testosterone levels to be that low? I feel good. I train good. I perform well in the gym. I sleep well. So, I mean, I'm not going to change anything. My blood work looks great. So it's important if you are someone who is active and physically fit. I'm not saying ignore those templates, but take them with a grain of salt because, again, they're designed for the masses. And we know that most people don't go to the gym. Most people don't work out. So those formulas and templates actually are very good to have. Those tools are great tools to have, even though they're generic. They do usually cover most people who are sedentary. And 9 times out of 10, when someone is 210, 5'9", don't go to the gym, they're going to be overweight. But then you get guys at the Mr. Olympia, for example, who, regardless if they're on anabolic steroids or not, they have muscle. And a lot of these guys are like 5'6", 5'7", and they're 240 pounds, but they're on like 3% body fat. So you got to be careful listening to these formulas. So to answer that question, no, I don't believe that at all. I do believe, though, that if you are someone who doesn't lift weights on a regular basis, that, yeah, you're at risk of losing muscle after the age of 30. I always thought it was around after the age of 40, but regardless if it's 30 or 40, I do believe that you're more at risk to going into a catabolic state of your muscles and losing muscle mass on a yearly basis. So even more reason to get yourself in the gym, if not just for aesthetics or just for overall health. If you want to prevent major injuries from occurring over the years, my recommendation, get yourself in the gym, start training weights today. It's never too late, but the more you delay it, the harder it's going to be. Okay, so you want to get yourself in the gym. If you don't know what you're doing, hire the services of a professional, knowledgeable, and experienced personal trainer that can help you. Because I've said this time and time again, and this is not for my own plugin, whether you're working with me or you're working with another trainer, this is an investment in your health and your fitness. And I've talked about this, how majority of my clients are business owners. They see the investment. They see the ROI on working with a trainer because they can utilize their time more efficiently in the gym. Like that question I had, how do you get so much sets in such a little short time frame? We utilize our time more efficiently in the gym. We work out smarter, not harder. We work out intensely, but we don't push it to 100, right? We stay in that 75, 80% intense for 45 to 60 minutes. And that's how you create results. And that's how you utilize your time more efficiently in the gym. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's all about long-term longevity. You have to be consistent. None of these short-term fixes. Anyway, that's it for this week's No Filter Q&A. This episode will be going up on Monday, September the 2nd. As a reminder, if you do have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements you are currently taking, not taking, considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for supporting my YouTube channel, my online coaching business, my in-house personal training business. Here in Canada, everyone have a great long weekend, and I will see you all next week. Bye for now.